Professora Beatriz, por favor.
Professor, o senhor constantemente está falando da digitalização dos livros. Eu queria falar do pesquisador. Assim, eu acho que nós somos pesquisadores dinossauros que estamos acabando, porque eu gosto de arquivo, eu gosto de documento, e cada vez mais essa experiência não vai acontecer de novo. Como diretor de instituição, eu sei que é bom que o pesquisador não venha, porque protege o documento e eu posso democratizar o acesso. Mas já se notou que o Google, por exemplo, ele conhece o seu vício de pesquisa e acaba te induzindo sempre aos mesmos resultados. E como professora, às vezes eu tento fazer os alunos levantarem na frente do computador e ir à biblioteca, ir ao arquivo, e eles não querem mais, eles querem resolver tudo por ali. Como resolver esse dilema de que é muito importante digitalizar para dar acesso, mas ao mesmo tempo a gente não está mais sendo aquele pesquisador, como o senhor diz, que ao se deparar com uma estranheza no documento, então invista na estranheza, né?
Yes. It's a real problem. I think it's primarily a pedagogical problem that you have experienced yourself, and I do too. So my students also, they go right to Google. And then I say, well, yes, but where did that information come from that you saw on Google? And they say, well, it came from cyberspace. What is cyberspace, you know? And, well, they think it's a kind of mythical world out there where information is floating around. They don't understand it's actually wired. There is the physical connections. And those physical connections can be blocked by sensors. We know in China they have very sophisticated techniques of blocking websites. And of course the Chinese try to get around them, and there's a cat and mouse game that goes on every day in China. Fascinating. That itself is a subject for research. But if I could revert to my experience, which I think is like yours, I've spent many months, years in the Archives Nationales in Paris. So you order a box of documents. You don't know what's in the box, but you think maybe there's some correspondence between the intendant and the minister of the king's household. You don't know. The box arrives. They always have a little ribbon on the side. You take apart the ribbon, you fold back the cover, and there are dossiers. You take out a dossier and you start reading. And somewhere out of reading letter after letter, memoir after memoir, hundreds and thousands, you have to write history. Now, none of that is available on the internet. Anyone who has had the experience, as I think you have, of the archives knows that they go on forever. I mean, thousands and thousands of kilometers of documents that no one has ever seen. I believe that we don't know most history, because history happens to everyone. And usually it's written from the top down. It's about kings and queens and generals and politicians. But we want to recover the history of ordinary human beings. And to do that, you have to go to other sources. It's very difficult. I'm sure you've done the same thing. I know Brazil has great historians who have worked out a way to get at the history of everyday life of common people. But it's a lot of labor. And it's thrilling. So I find I try to communicate to my students the excitement of a new box of documents in which you don't know what's there. And so I reproduce some of a box from the Archives de la Bastille, the Bastille archives, and I give one copy to each student, and then we read them together, and they puzzle over the handwriting. It's really quite easy to read, but they're not used to it. So they get one word after another, and they begin to read better, and at the end of a letter I say to them, what does the letter mean? And usually they haven't thought of that, because they're thinking so hard about the handwriting, they're not interpreting it. And then you feel the excitement of actually making contact with other minds, the mind that wrote this letter. Not perfect contact. I'm not a romantic, but serious contact in which you can, little by little, working harder and harder, get a full picture of life lived by ordinary people. So I think that as professors, you and I should try to get across the excitement of research that is way beyond Google, but takes you into the depths of how most human beings actually lived in the past.
Eu vou chamar agora um último